Hey, SlapDawg! The Brainiacs are ready!
Welcome into Leather Brains. Your host here, SlapDawg. Today, November 6th, almost the end of week 9, meaning halfway through the NFL regular season. Very, very sad. Very sad. But you know what? We're going to embrace it here today at Leather Brains. We are going to enjoy the remaining time that we have in week 9 and the NFL season. And I'm going to do it today with two of my very good friends, Alan Casanova Castro and Scotty Del Rey. Gentlemen, happy Monday to you.
Monday. Everybody loves Mondays.
No, not daylight savings Mondays. Today sucked.
You got to sleep in later.
Off. Not really. Dude, I have two kids. They don't know what time it is. Their bodies are just like, we're up, we're doing things. And it's like, why? For crops? For like farmers? Why am I doing this again? And some states don't even do it.
No, that's why daylight savings is a thing, though. I'm pretty sure it's because of farmers.
Yeah, but they have lights and GPS. They could do that blind. Like, why?
No, it was an olden time thing, and I think it's just kind of carried. That should be something I think we should start just kind of looking more into.
Getting rid of it.
So,
I thought that was a last year thing. They were getting rid of it.
In my previous life, when I worked in politics, you would be amazed the just volume of constituents who that was their only issue. They would call the office every single day, bitching about daylight savings time all the time. Yeah, it's people hate it. People really do hate it.
I like it when it's this time because I do get an extra hour of sleep, but in the spring, that's when I hate it. It's
Why
a bitch.
Are we doing this?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's dumb.
I think it's because of farmers, but I'm not. I
Save
don't
the
hold
daylight,
that.
So we had daylight savings, and then we had an early game in Europe, and it was just like chaos the rest of the day.
Yeah, no, that was. It was hard to wake up. I'm tired of these Europe games. I'm going to be honest with you, gentlemen. I am sick and tired of these Europe games because it forces me to get up even earlier than I would rather do otherwise. So
it really stresses me out for fantasy because I'll be like, I can set my lineups in the morning, and then shit, it's 7 a.m. and I got to get this shit done immediately.
Well, and that's one thing I don't think the NFL is really thinking about is us fantasy players when they're sending all these teams over to Germany or whatever overseas game they're going to play at. They're not thinking about us as fantasy players, and really we're the core of their fan base, and they need to make sure they're appeasing us, and they're not with this whole thing. So it's very frustrating. I'm done with the overseas games. If they want to watch, I'm all for it. You can, the Germans can record the game and watch it and support it from afar, but stop sending the players over there because it makes me get up earlier to watch them, and it also screws up my lineup. So I agree with you, Scotty. In today's episode, welcome in. This is episode 144. That's insane to say, but we have a lot to talk about, boys. We are going to talk about CJ Stroud, baby. He is him. What a game. We're going to be talking about the Vikings and the Falcons. There's a lot of conversational pieces there that definitely need to be discussed, as well as are the Bengals back and so many other narratives. We're going to be we're providing you waiver wire targets this week and BrainBusters. So if anybody has any questions, go over to our YouTube channel, submit them in the comments, and we will answer them live at the end of the show. Scotty, take us away with the MVP of the week, my friend.
Yeah, the MVP, Leatherbrain's MVP of the week, which, by the way, is brought to you by Prime Society Luxury, leather bags, backpacks, and accessories. You alluded to them a little bit ago, but you need to join athletes like Tyreek Hill and Klay Thompson by checking out primesociety.com and shopping their luxury bags, luggage, and accessories. Whether you're looking for the perfect high-quality gift that won't break the bank, Christmas is coming up, or you want to turn heads with the swagger of a pro athlete, Prime Society is the answer. Your fantasy MVP helped you secure the bag in your league, so make sure you secure the bag with Prime Society. Use promo code LBZ20 to get 20% off your order today at primesociety.com. Again, LBZ20 to get 20% off today. And your Leatherbrains MVP of the week is, of course, CJ Stroud. 41.8 fantasy points. He went 30 for 42, 470 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a couple other interesting stats. I think Schefter put these out today. He had a 147.8 passer rating, which is the highest of a rookie quarterback in NFL history. 470 yards passing is the most by a rookie quarterback in NFL history. He's the youngest player ever with at least 450 passing yards, and he's the 6th player in NFL history with 450 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and no interceptions in a single game. What a day for CJ Stroud.
Golly, man. Did you guys get the opportunity to watch this game? Because it was electric. It was so fun. I've never seen a rookie quarterback just, and this sounds really silly to say it this way, but just flow so well. Like everything he was doing was impressive. It was right on the money, and he looked incredible. I mean, obviously with a stat line like that, you're not going to be trash, of course, but I was really impressed with this kid. I think he certainly his welcome to the rookie offensive player of the year conversation. CJ Stroud. I mean, he's quarterback 7 on the year for fantasy football. He looked great, man. And the other thing too that I just briefly want to touch on here, obviously CJ Stroud is deserving of MVP of the week, but can we not give any sort of accolades to DeMeco Ryan here, the head coach for the Texans? Because nobody expected the Texans to do anything this year, myself included. And the Texans, I'm not saying they're a playoff contending team, but if you were a Texans fan right now, and I as a previous fan of them, I know that there's not that many of them, you have to be excited about the future of this organization right now because everything is starting to click. You can see, you see the flashes of, oh shit, like this is legit. This is real. So I think while we have to give a shout out to CJ Stroud, I think DeMeco Ryans is also equally deserving because he is doing a lot with this team that not a lot of people expected him to.
Are you putting a future on the Texans right now? Maybe over the next 5 years or so to make it to a Super Bowl?
I mean, anything can happen,
that
right?
Conversation?
I think I'd rather say playoff contending team, and I think that's probably a little bit more in the realm.
Though.
Well,
you gotta send it.
Texans win the Super Bowl in 3 years. There you go.
3 years. All right.
That's me sending it, Scotty. Don't do that.
I think we should do making it to the AFC title game is like a pseudo Super Bowl. I think that's an accomplishment in and of itself. So maybe we go, what's the realistic shot they have in making it to the
AFC championship?
Put
an asterisk in your little phone note there, Scotty, and put AFC championship because that equals a Super Bowl.
Nope. I'm keeping it the same. November 6th, 2026. I'm bringing the receipts.
Shit. All right, let's move over to the studs and duds. Alan, why don't you start us off with your stud of the week, my friend?
My stud of the week is a gentleman. I don't actually know his name. I would like to know his name. I'm sure if I took a second to look it up, but he is a man that's very comfortable with himself. One that knows comfort to the nth degree, and it's the Eagles coach. That if you saw the clip online,
Matt
he's
Leo
getting
is his name.
Is it Matt Leo?
Matt Leo.
Shout out Matt Leo, our our stud of the week. He's pushed over, he rolls, and you see this what appears to be a bright red thong. Now, there's a little bit of debate on whether or not that was actually a thong. It definitely looks like a thong. The way it appeared, the way it like whale-tailed up, I would assume it was. So he is my stud of the week with just the comfort level to roll out there with a bunch of grown men like manhandling each other and just rock a thong. So shout out to him for supporting comfort.
That's got a fantasy bet written all over it.
Oh,
like he lost his matchup that week or lost the week before, and they said, well, guess who's wearing a Victoria's Secret lingerie to the game?
Yeah. Step 1 is to wear it. Step 2 is to then have it accidentally show.
That's the worst part is you can lose any of us could lose in fantasy football and make that bet and we walk around in lingerie for a day. But for it to get aired on national television accidentally is hysterical. And I love that as a stud of the week. I don't know if I would be able to do that. I don't know how girls wear that. It makes me cringe just thinking about
wedgie all day.
Yeah, no thanks. I'm out. But apparently Matt Leo loves it. So great.
Shout out Matt Leo.
Great stud of the week. Scotty, who'd you bring for your stud of the week, my friend?
Yeah, mine is Luke Musgrave and by extension me. Because if you listen to our
you brought yourself as a stud this week.
I'm very humble, so yeah, this is a rare occurrence. No, but Luke Musgrave, he was somebody that I put in my must starts last week, and many people raised their eyebrows, and understandably so, because he's averaged like 4 targets a game for the entire season. But this particular matchup worked out well. This defense that they face gives up the most targets to tight ends. They give up it was like the top 5 most points to tight ends. And so I said in the stud of the week microcast that, hey, this is kind of a shot in the dark, but if you're struggling at the tight end position, at the time, I thought there was going to be like no tight ends who did anything this week, and that turned out to be wildly wrong. But Luke Musgrave did find the end zone. He put up 15 fantasy points. He was a top 10 tight end on the week. So if you put your blind trust in the Leatherbrains team, you got a usable tight end this week. So I was excited about that.
Congratulations, Scotty. I think you deserve an ancillary stud of the week.
Slaps. Are you gonna let us just start doing that? Like he gets to basically put himself as a pseudo stud of the week.
Well,
like,
he masked it a little bit.
Yeah,
so he's like it's Luke Musgrave,
strategy.
but also kind of like me.
Also me.
Yeah. So
we're in the business of making predictions. You got to pat yourself on the back when you get it right. Otherwise, nobody knows if you did.
that's fair enough. But when you get it wrong, do you call yourself out? That's a question.
No, of course not. That would
fine.
be
Next week, me.
That's
fine.
Welcome to all fantasy football analysts ever.
Preemptive stud of the week for me next week is going to be me. Just so you all know, I'm going to figure it out.
I think you should. You're my stud every week, but not this week. Not exactly right now. My stud of the week is Dare Ungabale. I butchered that guy's name. I butchered it.
Agumbawale.
Thank you, Agumbawale. He was cool, man. And if anybody doesn't know who this guy is, he is the backup running back for the Texans who filled in as their kicker. And it was super cool to see. He was Kaim Fairbairn, the Texans' real kicker, was injured halfway through the game, so he didn't play the second half of the game. Dare Alan, can you say it one more time?
Agumbawale.
Thank you. He actually kicked a field goal too. So he went out there and did a couple kickoffs, kicked a field goal, made it, and I was really
go-ahead
impressed.
Field goal.
Yeah, like, go ahead.
Imagine the trust you got to put in this guy. We need this to take the lead. Good luck.
Yeah, I could not believe it. I was like, oh my God, it was like a 4th down, go ahead field goal, and he made it. I think it was like a 30-yarder or something. I was like, damn, man, that's awesome.
It was good
too.
Yeah, no.
Did you see Ryan's smile, D'Amico Ryan's smile, like when he was watching it go through, like, oh my God, it worked.
Would you have the balls to do that, or would you just go for it? Like, honest to God,
the coach.
Yeah, like if you were in D'Amico Ryan's shoes.
I think most NFL teams now know. Like, I don't think that was by happenstance. They were just like, has anybody kicked before? They obviously knew because the Chiefs did that with Justin Reed. Mm-hmm. And he's like, he's their safety, but he can kick, and he can kick pretty well. So I think have guys identified. I think most teams do that because you don't carry 2 kickers typically. So I think there's always you always kind of know through training camp, but I think you never expect to have to actually do it. And pressure is the equalizer on many things. And so for him to just step up and do that, deserved stud.
Oh, easily. I was watching this game with.
Oh, good.
No, I was just gonna say I was watching this game with my mom, and I'm like hooting and hollering, and I'm like, "This is fucking awesome!" And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "That's not a kicker." And she's like, "Why is he kicking?" And I was like, "Well, their kicker's hurt." And she's like, "They don't have another kicker." And I'm like, "No, it doesn't work like that. Like, you don't roster 3 fucking kickers in the NFL." So, I was happy for him. I think it was awesome.
Do you think that kickers all around the league are shaking in their boots a little bit? Like, oh, wait a minute. Anyone could do this job? Like, they could just put anybody in and do it? Like, especially like with the Chiefs example with Reed. Imagine on kickoff. Like, on kickoff right now, you just got some little, 130-pound white kid that kicks the ball and then does nothing else because he's not going to be able to make a good tackle. If you could put a defensive player in there who can kick it well, like, now you have an extra guy that can make a tackle. Like, why isn't that standard to try and find someone like that?
Yeah, just get rid of kickers. Have somebody that is not a kicker, but they're your designated kicker, and then just fill that other spot with like a backup quarterback or something. The Vikings probably should look into that.
Step 1, get rid of kickers for fantasy football. Step 2, get rid of kickers in real football.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and bring you guys my dud of the week. I'll flip the script here. My dud of the week is Lamar Jackson, because Lamar Jackson went on his Instagram and posted something along the lines of he's sorry to all fantasy football players out there for letting them down this week because he didn't do well for fantasy football. This man won an NFL game and then went on his Instagram profile and apologized to the scumbags such as ourselves for not performing in fantasy football. Dud of the week.
Yeah, as he should apologize for that. Hey. He's a dud. He only put up how many points? 10? 9?
I don't even know if it was that. I think it was 8. Let me look. Lamar Jackson he put up 11.4. So still not great. But or my dud of the week. Scotty, your dud of the week.
Yeah, my dud of the week, if you are a frequent user of social media, you might have seen this clip going around of Arthur Smith's son, who is, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 years old, and he dressed up as Arthur Smith for Halloween. And so who I presume to be Arthur Smith's wife is following this kid around, and he's making play calls. And he said, "Oh, this play call is an easy one. I'm going to give it to my favorite player, Bijan Robinson." And it's like, oh shit, this kid is already a better coach than Arthur Smith because he at least wants to give the ball to one of their best players. It blows my mind.
Yikes. That's a bad look. That's a bad look for Arthur Smith. And it sounds like his son is already ready to coach an NFL team. Because we'll talk about it when we talk about the Falcons.
We saw that tweet. I still don't know why they drafted him. Like,
I don't either. It's despicable. We'll hold it for the Arthur Smith should be in prison conversation, which we'll have here in just a moment. Alan, your dud of the week, my friend.
My dud of the week is just officiating in general. I watched a good amount of football.
All the zebras.
All of them. Literally this whole weekend, whether you watched college or you watched any pro football, it was just bad. It's just been bad this whole year. And some of them, it's not even like 50-50 calls that went against like a team I'm rooting for or had like a rooting interest in anything. It's really just like easy calls that are now just so complex. And I feel like we've just like completely just screwed ourselves with the reviews and everything else. Like a lot of the targeting calls, a lot of the roughing the passer calls, they've just been bad. They're just all bad. You can find them. You could probably find a handful from just Sunday alone of just like bad calls. You're like, what? How? And so for me, my dud of the week, and you probably just say dud of the year, has just been officiating. I feel like it's so inconsistent. I don't even know how some of these guys play because I wouldn't even know what to do half the time.
I agree.
It's just arbitrary. Like the NFL is obviously taking player safety into account more so now than ever before. And as a result, now you get all these arbitrary calls that it depends on, if the ref blinked at the right time or not and what their opinion on the rule is itself.
It's not even
you can't have rules that are based on the opinions of the people who are supposed to be enforcing the rules.
Yeah, if you watch the Sunday night game, even like Josh Allen getting like this random weird like intentional grounding call like 20 minutes after the play was over. I'm
stupid.
Like, you either see it or you don't and move on. Like it's so dumb. So dumb.
Well, and I think from a fan's perspective, it makes it that much more frustrating to sit here and say, yeah, this shit's scripted. Like, obviously I don't believe that that's true, but like, you can't tell me that regardless of if it's the Chiefs or the Bills or whoever's playing like that. And I'm going to use that Bills one as an example. You wait until after the play and then you come together and like, that call potentially changes the entire game. So to sit there and say definitively that you feel so strongly that you can call that play when realistically should it have been called? Probably not. No. So now you get in the conversation of, well, yeah, it's rigged. Like that's what people are saying. And while I don't think that's the case, like it certainly strengthens that argument in my opinion a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is frustrating. But all right. Studs and duds, check. Let's move over to the Pastronaut himself. People are calling Joshua Dobbs the Pastronaut because not only is he passing like a goddamn G, but he also worked for NASA, which is pretty cool. Joshua Dobbs, if anybody does not know the story, let me tell it very quickly. Joshua Dobbs was purchased from the Cardinals for a 5th-round pick. We played him for a good majority of our season, and then we traded him to the Vikings right before the deadline. Joshua Dobbs showed up to the Vikings headquarters Tuesday, okay? He was not slated to start this week. He was not slated to be a quarterback that was going to be played this week for the Vikings because Jaren Hall, the rookie quarterback that the Vikings selected, was slated to start. Midway through the first quarter, Jaren Hall got a concussion, and they had no more quarterbacks. So Joshua Dobbs, who doesn't even know anybody on the Vikings team, he doesn't know their names, he doesn't know any of the play calls, he knows nothing, came into the game. His head coach was telling him the plays and telling him very quickly in between snaps, these are what these people are running, these are the routes they're running, and these are your reads. He was literally telling him how to do it within a 30-second time frame. Joshua Dobbs went out there and beat the Falcons 31-28. Absolutely incredible. I have never seen anything like that in the NFL before, and it was honestly one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So I am so taken away by this entire storyline. I think it's awesome, and I could not be more impressed with Joshua Dobbs right now.
Not to mention, he had some good games with the Cardinals too. He is the real deal when it comes to having a good backup quarterback that you can trust. Because his recent games with the Cardinals weren't so good, but to start the season, you're like, oh shit, like this guy's actually getting these weapons, the balls, what few weapons they have. And then going over there to Minnesota, I saw a video of a Vikings fan shaving his eyebrows in solidarity with Joshua Dobbs, and I think that says it all. Yeah, he's already won the hearts and minds of the fan base and the locker room.
I was it's gonna be a flex. I was golfing. It was very nice here. So I was trying to watch it on my phone while we were golfing, and it was tough to follow along what was happening. I didn't even know that somebody got hurt, and I just saw Dobbs in. I was like, oh damn, he's actually playing. I was like, man, this is not going to go well. And I was with a couple of Vikings fans, and they were trying to keep up with the game, and then it was like, all right, they're losing. Here's where it ends. There's no way he's going to be able to make them come back. And then it was like, he's winning. They won. Like, what is happening? So even if you weren't paying attention, just like what was going on. And I saw some clips of him like working with his line of like what his cadence is. Like, here's what I sound like when I'm going to call for the ball. Like, he was very like rudimentary, like baseline, just working things. They're just doing it on the sidelines.
Yeah, he was literally on the sidelines practicing. He'd never taken a snap from that center before. He didn't even know all of the names of all the linemen. And he's like, okay, we're doing this. And for him to come out and win, like we talk about in this podcast, we talk about any given Sunday, and we talk about how hard it is to win an NFL game. This man came in with less than a week and beat the Falcons, which is its own conversational piece that we're going to have here in just a moment. But I also have to highlight this as for fantasy purposes, Cam Akers did tear his Achilles. So this is the second time he's done this. I don't know where his, I don't root for injury. None of us root for injury here, but I think this is probably the end of Cam Akers if I was to guess. I mean, back-to-back Achilles injuries. And I think that if you're an Alexander Madison owner, you got to be a little like a spark of excitement. Obviously, we're not rooting for injury, but Alexander Madison was seeing competition from Cam Akers, and that has now been eliminated. So my question is if you do own Alexander Madison, do you breathe a little sigh of relief for fantasy purposes?
I mean, I am. I was worried about it for a while. Are you suggesting
100%.
that Madison purposefully tore Cam Akers' Achilles? Is that what we're saying?
We got a conspiracy.
He planted the turf shark himself.
He just cut. Dude, that's my dud for next week, or Achilles. Never mind. I already got it settled. I'm the stud next week, and then dud is Achilles. Done.
Yeah, there are a lot of Achilles that have been just tearing left and right this year.
It sucks. Like I said, none of us root for injury, and I really do feel bad for him. But I don't know.
Quick question, boys. Quick question for Dobbs. Do we give him the Geno Smith Award for this year?
The man who didn't write back?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what people are saying about Dobbs, but beginning of the season, I feel like he deserves our Leatherbrains Geno Smith of the Year award.
I think if I was to guess the trajectory of Joshua Dobbs' career moving forward, it's this. He will start somewhere for a team next year. He will be, I don't want to compare him to Ryan Fitzpatrick because Ryan Fitzpatrick is probably the best quarterback to ever play the game for every single NFL team. But I think Joshua Dobbs has certainly earned himself a starting job somewhere. And I'm not saying it's going to be a long-term solution, but like an ancillary fill-in while a team tries to figure out what the hell their future is going to look like. I think he could be that piece because he's not going to be expensive. He's certainly shown that he can play NFL football and he can do it pretty damn well. And he's also really smart. And that's something that obviously you have to be an athletic freak to play at this level, but his intelligence is really, I think, what won them the game this week. So I think he's proved that. And I think he does deserve to start somewhere next year. And I think he will.
I think his career reminds me a lot of Jacoby Brissett, where like a lot of teams would be very happy to have him as their starting quarterback, but not the franchise quarterback, right? So I think he's going to be in the league for a long time. And you just look at this one game, not only did he win the game, which is impressive enough, but he played well. I think he had one strip sack and he took a safety, and that all happened like right when he came in. And he pretty much played flawlessly for 2.5 quarters. It was impressive, not just because of the end result, but just play by play, watching him dissect the defense on an offense that he knows nothing about. He deserves all the praise in the world. He definitely deserves some sort of award.
Well, let's flip the script here. Arthur Smith, head coach for the Falcons. He should be in prison. That's where I'm at. Arthur Smith is a fucking goob. And he should be in prison.
How do these guys get jobs?
That's what I'm saying. I'm just gonna tell you the exact thing that happened on a first and goal. Alan. So get ready. Falcons have the ball first and goal on the 1 yard line. And this is how their drive went. First play, false start. Second play, pass to Jonnu Smith. Third play, a rush attempt by Jonnu Smith. And then a rush attempt by Tyler Algier. What's missing there? Perhaps their first round pick, maybe? The guy they drafted that should be there winning them games, maybe?
A dropped pass by Kyle Pitts was missing, but other than that, it looks pretty much according to plan.
It's Kyle Pitts. Like that's you guys know my feelings.
That makes zero. I wouldn't trust Arthur Smith with my Madden team. Like if I handed him my controller, I'd be like, he's just gonna fuck this up. I can't even trust him with a virtual team, let alone a real team. I'm just still very confused.
What's crazy to me with this particular situation is, okay, if you're not going to give the ball to Bijan, which they've already proven that they have no interest in doing that in the red zone. Like they don't want him taking contact by anybody ever again. So you have Tyler Algier. He's a big bruising running back. You have a good offensive line. Why are you trying to run these end arounds with your backup tight end instead of running Tyler Algier down their throat 3 times in a row if you need to? Like that's a touchdown even if you don't give it to Bijan. If you just give it to your bruising running back and let him do what he does, like it's 1 yard. He will get that 1 yard 9 times out of 10. It doesn't make any sense.
Scotty, you know what this reminds me of? Reminds me of like a really bad Andy Reid sometimes where you're like,
yeah, where he just
why
is too cute.
Are you giving the ball to Clyde? Why are you throwing it to Sky Moore? And this kind of feels like a goal to go situation I'd see from the Chiefs where it's like pass to Sky Moore. Rushed by Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like,
are they just playing on the hardest?
Kadarius Toney.
Yeah,
they're playing in the hardest difficulty just because they want to see if they can succeed doing it, making it like, just insanely hard for themselves.
I wonder if Arthur Smith has like a futures bet where he took the under on Bijan's rushing touchdown total, and he's like hell bent on keeping it really low just in case. He's like, can't wait to go to Vegas, cash that one in.
Yeah, I just don't understand. I think Arthur Smith should probably... If Arthur Smith isn't on the hot seat right now, I don't know what the Falcons are doing. And here's the other thing that I saw, because we sent out a tweet last week where it was saying, like, which head coach is next to get fired after the Raiders head coach, and Arthur Smith was on that list, right? And a bunch of people came to his defense, and they were saying... they're winning their division. Why would you fire a head coach that's winning their division? I'm going to read you out the division standings right now. The Panthers 1-7, the Bucks 3-5, the Falcons 4-5, and the Saints 5-4. So the Saints now are winning the division, but they were not last week. This division is dog shit. So you can't sit there and say he's winning them a division here. He's the best thing that they can do. Like they're doing great. It's like, no, this division is just so bad that somebody has to be winning it, and it's them.
And again, too, like one thing I keep saying, and I think it's important for us to constantly remind ourselves, if you look at this roster on paper outside of the quarterback position, they should win this division hands down. They have so many weapons. They have a good defense that's much improved from last season. They have a good offensive line. Like, they should be winning this division relatively easily as things can happen in the NFL, and they are just pissing it away. I do just want to take one moment. We got a YouTube comment in from Jaguars Fan Battle who says, Matt, are you going to shave your mustache in solidarity with Arthur Smith? And the answer to that question is no, because I represent the cool mustache. Arthur Smith had potential to be a cool mustache, but now he's ruining the mustache for the rest of us. So I disavow his mustache.
Oh my God. Did you just say that live? You disavow his mustache?
Yeah.
That's all
it's
he's
an embarrassment
got.
to all of us. We're a tight-knit community, and he has given us a bad name.
Wow.
Damn it. Andy Reid also has a mustache. We're cooking with grease.
Yeah, be careful who you disavow now.
No, Andy Reid is the president of the mustache. He's the best thing that ever happened to us.
Oh, God. Yeah, the last thing I want to talk about with Arthur Smith is, like, you look at this game. The Vikings won this game with a backup quarterback that just arrived on Tuesday that didn't know any of the players' names or any of the plays. No Justin Jefferson, no KJ Osborne, no Cam Akers, and they still won. Like, I just, there's no excuse.
Would you say it's more the Vikings won or more the Falcons lost?
Falcons lost. When it's first and goal on the 1?
I think, I was just going to, I agree. I was going to say, I think this also, for those people that say those, like, we have juxtapositions here because we have CJ Stroud that didn't do good on, like, the testing for quarterbacks. He's like, I'm not good with tests. I just play football. Then you have the complete other side where Joshua Dobbs probably aced it. He probably wrote the test the quarterbacks take, and you could see what happens when you have to plug him in. So little A, little B. But I think it's interesting to see that juxtaposition this week where you have one quarterback that went off that didn't do testing well, and you had another one that's a genius that like obviously can come in and pick up any system really fast. So interesting little nugget from the weekend. From the noon windows, what's hilarious is I sent a tweet to the team beforehand that said it was Deontay Johnson hadn't caught a touchdown pass from somebody that wasn't Ben Roethlisberger in like a few years, and kind of unreal. And I think the community, I think Twitter was catching on, and our boy Deontay Johnson finally got his touchdown catch. Finally, Ben Roethlisberger we can take him off the mantle.
Thank God.
Pickett can be on there now for his touchdown pass. But Johnson also this week finally saw a little bit more traction. I know he's been on the shelf, the IR, but it's nice to see him back into the fold from a fantasy perspective. 7 receptions, 90 yards, and a touchdown. I think that was just cool. Also, just a wild stat that it was just Ben Roethlisberger that had thrown him his last one. Like that seems unreal. It seems like one of those things like. Yeah, it's like those like old history facts. You're like, there's no way that's true. That was absolutely true. I guess a few things I also want to take away from this game. One, Deontay Johnson shout out. Two, Stroud now has more touchdown passes in his career than Pickett does. And we're halfway through Stroud's first season, which I know Pickett has had his ups and downs. Like, so my question to you guys, we just fantasy wise, I think. Obviously, redraft it is what it is, but like from a dynasty perspective, are you just like, is anybody even holding out hope? Like he's just kind of there now. Like there's no way.
You're talking Pickett, right?
Yeah, Pickett. There's no way Pickett is long term.
You and I had this conversation a couple weeks ago where it was like, we as fans see it, and what do the coaches and what does the staff see that we don't? And I think we were even talking about Pickett, or he was a part of that conversation, and when we were having it, and. He's not the answer, I don't think. I think like very obviously we know that, and I don't know if the Steelers are coming to terms with that, but he's not it. He's not it.
He just needs to stop looking like a fucking moron when he dresses himself for the games. He is out there wearing two gloves and a half sleeve, and he looks like redneck Kirk Cousins out there that doesn't really know how to play football. Like
he looks like Morgan Wallen.
You can't wear all the like Madden create a character accessories when you suck at the game. Like you have to earn your way into that, and it's just embarrassing. But you mentioned Deontay Johnson. I want to talk about George Pickens. We have a note here that I think Alan you put on that Pickens. He's making these one-handed catches, but he only saw 2 targets this game, and this is consistent going back to last season when Deontay Johnson's on the field. Pickens doesn't get a lot of targets. So the question is, okay, is this the fault of the quarterback, or is this because, we know that Pickens is capable of making these circus catches. We see it all the time, but why does he have to make the circus catches? Is it because the balls thrown to him are bad, or is it because he doesn't get a lot of separation, which means that when there are other receivers who are able to separate from the defenses, Pickens becomes kind of an afterthought? And I think it's probably a combination of both, but it's interesting to see that everyone wants to praise George Pickens for all of these athletic feats. But like, dude, you shouldn't have to make diving one-handed catches. You should be able to get separation on a good number of your routes. And I don't know if he's not doing that or if Kenny Pickett's just not getting the job done.
Now it's going to make me sit there and watch Steelers games, which is something I'm not interested in doing. But you bring up a really good point, and I want to look more into that and just like from a visibility standpoint, sit there and watch him run his routes and see, is he getting separation? Is he able to do it? Because I think that's a valid point. And I don't watch Steelers games enough to know.
Yeah, I don't hate
I think it is a valid point. I think it's a little bit of both, Scotty. I think also, Tomlin, I don't know what this offense is doing because you very clearly have talent. And Deontay got his, which he's super talented, and Pickens saw 2 targets. But then you also have, as a Warren owner, I was wondering why he wasn't getting more touches. Warren was he averaged 8 yards a carry last game. 8 yards a carry, and he only saw 11 carries compared to Najee's 16, which when you dive into the numbers of what they were actually doing, like he was averaging 4.3 yards per carry. Warren's averaging 8 yards a carry, literally double And
You're not
if you
going to
just
hear.
look at it and you say, can we just not give him the ball more? Like, I am thoroughly confused. It's like they went to the Arthur Smith school on like how not to use some of your best players. And they're like, you know what, Pickens, Warren, we see you're really great, but we also don't want other teams to see you, so we don't potentially have to trade you. So we're just going to hide you so nobody else wants you, and then we'll go from there. That's like honestly what I feel they do.
Steelers fans are going to go ahead, Scotty.
Well, I was just going to say this is eerily similar to the Tony Pollard conversation, and we've seen now how that's turned out. You know, maybe there's something that these NFL coaches know that we don't know by watching the game, that maybe the reason or part of the reason why Warren is so efficient with his touches is because they have that change of pace. And if Warren all of a sudden is getting 16 to 20 carries, maybe he loses a lot of that efficiency. That's exactly what we've seen with Tony Pollard, is that he just all of a sudden is performing at the exact same rate as Zeke did last year. And I wonder if that's part of the mindset, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Like, when you're seeing such a stark contrast in efficiency, why would you not play the more efficient guy? I think there's got to be some underlying analytical reason to that.
There is. It's because, and I know that Steelers fans are going to agree with me, it's because Matt Canada's a fucking idiot. Their offensive coordinator. He is. He's bad, and he needs to go. And I don't think Mike Tomlin should go, because I do like Mike Tomlin as a head coach, and I think he is a good head coach. But I think his offensive coordinator is a goob, and he needs to go. And that's part of the problem, I think. I think that's why this offense is partially lackluster. I do think Kenny Pickett plays his fair share. I think a lot of these players do. I don't think Najee Harris is a good running back. I've said that before, and I think we're all in agreement there. Jaylen Warren passes the eye test much better than Najee does. And that's something that there's no I mean, obviously there is some statistics that back it that we just talked about, but like, as far as the eye test is concerned, there's not like statistically the eye test, like, he looks better. The same thing that you could say for Clyde Edwards-Helaire versus Isaiah Pacheco. Like, he looks better, and that's the case. Matt Canada's an idiot, and that's what I think is really the underlying issue here, is he wants to play Najee because Najee's probably banging his mom or something. I don't know.
Nice. Good for Najee.
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of talked shit on the Steelers for a while now, and I got to just take a moment to talk shit on my I got to look inward. I got to look at my own problems in my own house. I got to get it in order. We got to talk about the Chiefs, because they escaped with a win. And I say they escaped with a win after they went into halftime up 3 touchdowns and looking totally dominant. But I tell you, this team did everything that they possibly could, from the players, from the on-field play to after the whistles blow to the play calling. Like, holy shit, they did everything that they could to lose this game. It all started with Chris Jones. The Dolphins were driving toward the end of the game, or I guess it was probably in the third quarter. They're down 3 touchdowns, but they're driving. The Chiefs defense makes a key stop, gets them to 3rd and long, and then Chris Jones, on the 3rd and long play, when it would have forced them to punt the ball, decides to get in a fist fight for some reason. Like, he's not a veteran who hasn't been in the league for a billion years. He just decides to get this penalty call to give them a first down. They go down and score. Then you have Mecole Hardman, who now 2 games in a row has fucked up a punt return, where he fields a punt on like the 2-yard line instead of letting it bounce into the end zone, which doesn't make any sense. That sets us up in bad field position, gives the Dolphins the ball, they go down and score. Now it's a close game. The Chiefs are trying to secure the game. It's 3rd and 1. They're trying to run the clock down, or at the very least force the Dolphins to burn their timeouts. And on 3rd and 1, with Isaiah Pacheco driving down the field on this drive, they run a play-action pass that Pat Mahomes has to throw out of bounds. So they don't get the first down. It stops the clock. They don't force the Dolphins to burn a timeout. It was the worst play call I have seen in forever. It felt like Scott Frost was coaching this team. Like, they were doing everything that they could to lose this game.
Don't insult Andy like that.
The Chiefs won. Man. The Chiefs won the game, and I'm happy. They escaped with the win. But this was the most angry I've ever been watching my team win. I was ready to just throw my hand through a wall. I was so upset, like, watching it.
I hear you, Scotty. End of the day, you just got to collect your wins and move on. You kind of win however you win. Andy Reid immediately after that went to the locker room and said, "I'm sorry, O-line, I owe you one," which, you knew that was his call to run that. But he does that all the time. Like, some of these NFL coaches, and I love Andy Reid, but that's been his MO forever, is that his clock management, even when he was back with the Eagles, was just absolute dog shit. And it's followed him forever. That's always been his thing, where he doesn't quite do the things necessary to just like end a game. He always tries to outsmart himself and be like,
he's playing on the hardest difficulty.
Yeah, nobody's going to suspect Pat Mahomes is going to pass. Watch this one. And you're like, no, dude, everybody's expecting that shit because you always do it. So, like, how about you do the thing you don't always do? If you want to talk about looking inward, he needs to look inward and break some of his tendencies that his staff is currently forming, one of which is not getting their playmakers the ball that they should be enough. They didn't run it as much as they should have probably with Pacheco. I think Pacheco is serviceable with this line. I don't think Pacheco's an amazing running back by any means, but I think this offensive line is worthy of creating multiple holes that even Pacheco, with as hard as he runs the ball or his feet hit the ground, can do. And then Rashee Rice. I'm happy they gave him the ball, but he needs it more. They need to give him. He is their wide receiver one. That is their wide receiver one, and they need to give him the ball. So there's multiple things, but win's a win. You got to move on. A lot of things happen.
I have two questions. As somebody who is not a Chiefs fan, I feel like I say that every show, but there's always new people listening. So like, I just want to, blanket that. Is Matt Nagy part of the problem in your guys' mind, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs?
It's difficult to know what role he plays. If you had asked me last year, with Bieniemy, okay, what role does Bieniemy play? I would say, okay, he obviously brings a lot of intangibles. He's obviously a great player coach. They respect him a lot. But as far as the play calling, I don't know how much of a role he plays in that. But then you see Bieniemy leave and go turn this Washington offense into a usable offense and make Sam Howell look like a great quarterback. And you think, oh shit, he probably did play a pretty big role in Kansas City. And that makes me think, yeah, a lot of the problems that we're having right now are, I'm hoping that it's just, Matt Nagy hasn't been in this position for a little bit and it's going to take him a little bit to adjust. But it's definitely making an impact. And I think Isaiah Pacheco, that's a great point that you bring up, because it's now 2 weeks in a row where they didn't give him the ball as much as they should have. And one of the reasons is with this Chiefs offense, coming off of a Super Bowl win, people expect this offense to look unbeatable. They expect Patrick Mahomes to look like the MVP on every play. And obviously they don't necessarily have the weapons to do that. What Pacheco does, in addition to being a good, solid player, is bring that energy. And he is a momentum shift of a player. So you want him to have big, explosive plays. And you want to give him the opportunity to have those big, explosive plays, because it changes the dynamic of the way the game is perceived, right? You're not saying Patrick Mahomes, got lucky and made something happen on 3rd and long. You're saying Isaiah Pacheco is controlling this game. He is the engine of this offense. And that's the sort of thing that I think Eric Bieniemy, would recognize. He recognizes the intangibles on that offense, and Matt Nagy, I don't think, has that acumen.
Well, I've always said Matt Nagy was a piece of shit. I said that when he was with the Bears, and then he came over and is now your guys' offensive coordinator, of course. I put out a graphic today on the Leatherbrains account, and it showed statistics of Patrick Mahomes and Sam Howell. And to be honest with you, they're pretty close. Like this season, obviously, we're not talking about Super Bowl wins or victories or what have you, but from a statistical standpoint, Sam Howell and Patrick Mahomes this season are very close to each other in completions, in yards passing, in touchdowns, and in interceptions. So I do think as a bipartisan party here in this entire Chiefs conversation, I think Eric Bieniemy certainly plays a part in this because he knows how to utilize the tools in his toolbox. And that is something that I think we're seeing the Chiefs struggle this year in that avenue where you guys have weapons, if you want to call them that. And some of them, like you have Kelsey, you have Rashee Rice, but your guys' wide receivers aren't incredible. But what are you doing with those wide receivers? How are you tooling them to benefit your offense? And I think that's just something Matt Nagy hasn't seen, or hasn't done, rather. My other question, I did say I had 2 questions. Did it feel good, gentlemen, to look across the sideline and hand Tyreek Hill that loss? Did it feel good? Because he was talking a lot of shit in pregame about how he was going to go off on the Chiefs and how it was going to be so great as his former alma mater. He was going to destroy him, and he didn't. He actually was pretty freaking quiet.
I think the sweetest thing was one of the picks the Chiefs had got, they turned into Trent McDuffie, and then Trent McDuffie ripped Tyreek. That ended up being the scoop and score for 6. So I think if anything, that one play was enough for me to say, like, okay, very rarely do you see in the NFL that both teams kind of won. I think Miami's happy they have Tyreek, and I think the Chiefs are happy where they are with where their defense is right now, because I don't think this defense looks like that if they paid Tyreek. I think we'd be like, their offense is so good, but they can't stop anybody.
Yeah.
You always have to pick one in the NFL. Like, where are you going to invest your money? And I think very clearly the Chiefs are investing in two things that are winning them these close games, and sometimes losing them the games like we saw against Denver. They invested in their O-line, they invested in their defense. Those are two areas that can carry you to win these games ugly. And I think that's kind of where the Chiefs are. I don't agree with it necessarily, and I think it hinders the whatever you want from Mahomes. It's a pretty good strategy when you
got Patrick Mahomes.
I agree. I think you look back to where the Patriots were back when,
I was going to say Tom Brady.
When Brady had that little dip where he didn't have all the show. He didn't have all those guys. Remember, he got Gronk later in his career. He got Randy Moss after a bit. And so I think this is kind of the foundational set where the Chiefs kind of just are right now. And I think the fan fodder over like how many touchdowns this so-and-so, how many interceptions this so-and-so, how many yards this so-and-so, I think it's fine. But I think you go to the win-loss column and you're like, okay, whatever they're doing is somewhat working for all the frustrations. It's like you've beaten the Jaguars, you've beaten the Dolphins, you're in first, you have all this to look for, and you still have room to grow. I think a lot of teams would kill for that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it feels good.
Okay. Yeah, nobody answered my question, so I appreciate you.
I will just say I respect the hell out of Tyreek Hill as a player. I think he's a lot of fun to watch. And I think when he was talking shit on the Chiefs, you could tell it was almost like jovial. Like, it's not like he hates Kansas City. And you saw the way he acted after the game where he's, hugging Mahomes and Kelsey. Like, there's a lot of respect there. So no hard feelings, but I'm glad we stripped him for the difference-making TD.
Yeah, I would be too. It was a close game. I was rooting for the Dolphins, and I said that, and now I will convert back to a Chiefs fan for the rest of the season because there's nobody on their schedule that I'm hating anymore.
Well, we just spent a lot of times talking about one great quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, but I don't think enough people are talking enough about another great quarterback that we're seeing make an emergence. And we mentioned him earlier, but we're not giving the Ravens and Lamar Jackson enough credit. This game that they played this week was an absolute routing. I don't think anyone really expected it to be that close of a game given how well the Ravens are playing and all the issues that the Rams are going through. But Lamar only threw 5 incompletions. The Ravens had over 500 yards of total offense and 300 yards on the ground. That's ridiculous. Their defense held the Rams to 151 total yards, and their defense leads the league in sacks. They got 4 more this week. This Rams team is coming together really, really well. This Ravens team is coming together really, really well.
They are. I've said this all season long. I have met me personally, and understand I am not a coach or I'm a fantasy analyst that likes to talk NFL football. He has shown to me what I have not seen in him previously, and I'm talking about Lamar Jackson. He's getting it done, and he's throwing the ball pretty damn well. He's finding ways to win, and that's something that I think he struggled with the last couple years. I think part of it's probably his new offensive coordinator is certainly helping that, as well as getting him some offensive pieces to help him, because that's been another struggle for him. So I'm excited for the Ravens, and I think that they are a legit Super Bowl. I think they're a contender for sure. Do I think that they go all the way? Probably not, but any given Sunday. And I think that they should be in the conversation because they are playing pretty damn good football. The Seahawks are 5-3. They're no slouch. Mm-hmm. They're a good team. I'm not going to say they're a great team, but they're a pretty damn good team. So to come in there and beat them 37-3, that's not a joke.
Thank you for correcting me. I realize now I was saying the Rams this whole time.
You were. I was very confused. I was like,
these are two different teams.
You guys got to interrupt me and tell me I'm an idiot.
No, it's okay. You're the stud of the week. I can't correct you. Do you think are the Ravens? I know we could look at very obviously the record, but do you feel like the Ravens are the team to beat right now in the AFC? Just right now, not like projecting out, not like where teams are trending, but just like right now, are they the best team in the AFC?
No, but I think they're in the conversation. I mean, there's a lot. AFC.
Who do you think's the best team in the AFC right now?
I think they're right up there. I think the Ravens are. It would be. I would not blame anyone for saying definitively that they are the team to beat right now.
I'm going to say the Bengals.
Haven't seen.
I'm going to say the Bengals.
Yet.
But we've seen it before in that that team hasn't changed much. It's still got to be the Bengals for me. Look, the Chiefs are always the Chiefs. I mean, that's I wrote them off last year. Shame on me. And I told myself I wasn't going to make that same mistake. Obviously, the Chiefs are freaking good. But you look at this team on paper, and we had the same conversation last year when the Chiefs-Eagles were playing against each other in the Super Bowl. On paper, the Chiefs aren't good. But the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes, they have Andy Reid, and they figure out ways to win. But if I were to just look at a personnel standpoint, I think it might still be the Bengals for me. But the Ravens are...
We'll find out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we will.
Thursday Night Football, Bengals-Ravens.
That's going to be fun.
That's
going to be really fun.
We'll find out very, very quickly where these two teams are and how they both look against each other. Because I would think, like right now, the Ravens, for all we give like hemming and hawing about these offenses, like the Bengals being back or Joe Burrow being back, like, they put up 30 on San Francisco, which I think is a benchmark. Before that, they put up like 17 points. They put up 21, 24 the other last night. So it's like, okay, then you look at the Ravens, 38 on the Lions, 31 on the Cardinals, 37 on the Seahawks, and you look at like they're doing it the way they want to do it too. Like they're taking what they want, and their defense is playing solid. And so, for me, I think it is the Ravens right now. I think they just are playing so well, but that's why I said right now, because I think if you project it out, I think the Bengals will.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I got too far ahead of myself and was looking at like end of year. So
I agree with you. End of year, I agree with you.
Well, let's. I'm going to skip a little bit on the show notes here because we're talking about the Bengals. So let's talk about the Bengals. Joe Burrow threw for 350 yards, 2 touchdowns. Higgins led the wide receiver room with 8 receptions, 110 yards. So my question is, first of all, are we back on the Bengals as a team, and are we back on them as a fantasy asset? But I want you to consider, obviously the Bengals started the season slow. They played a good game last week, and then they came out and got the win this week. But they got the win this week against a Bills team that is completely and totally dilapidated on the defensive side of the ball. So we say, oh, Joe Burrow threw for 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's pretty good. But then you look at the Bills, and they're missing Tre'Davious White, who's a cornerback. They're missing Matt Milano, linebacker. They're missing Daquan Jones, defensive tackle. They're missing Kier Elam, cornerback. They're missing Terrell Bernard, linebacker. Micah Hyde left the game early. He's a safety. Christian Benford, cornerback, left the game early. A.J. Klein, linebacker. He just signed with the Bills. Immediately gets hurt. He's out. Balen Spector, linebacker, IR. Like, they are missing everyone on this defensive roster.
You ready?
Yeah.
Choo-choo. Get on the damn train, baby, because the Bengals are back.
Yeah,
I get it. I get the fact that the Bills have a injured defense. That has kind of been their mantra a lot of the year. Joe Burrow's back. That was the problem. We knew that was the problem. It was his calf. He looks healthy. He looks good. He's making plays. And we say it any given Sunday. It is hard to get a win in the NFL. And to come in and beat the Bills is not an easy thing to do because the Bills, regardless of if they have all their starters or not, are still a damn good team. And yes, when they're missing half their defense, I completely understand the argument that you're making there. But my point being is they look good. They look healthy. Joe Burrow in particular looks healthy. And that to me was what I wanted to see. I said going into this game, I will be back in the Bengals train even if they lose this game, as long as they play a competitive game and look complete, and they did, obviously they won, so then I'm back in, and that's where I'm at, because the Bills are no slouch, and the Bengals are, they always kind of start off a little slow, and then they figure it out, and here we are. And so I'm back in on the Bengals, and I think that they're back.
2 weeks ago, if I said, the Bengals have the 49ers and the Bills, what do you think? Are they going to split those games? Are they more likely to win both, split the games, or lose both? I think we both would have been like, they're more likely to split or lose both.
Agreed.
And I think after those 2 games, it's easy to say like, well, this team's like this and this team's like that. It's like, you know what? Like those are 2 of probably their hardest games they're going to play this year. And they won them both. And they looked it was pretty convincing. The score at the end doesn't look so convincing against the Bills. It looks like they just won by 1 score, but that Bills score came late. The Bengals were in control the whole time. Joe Burrow was extending drives. He was limiting the opportunities for Josh Allen. I think the Bills had the ball for like 8 minutes in the first half, and Diggs is very outwardly complaining that he's not even breaking a sweat, and it's like, eesh, yikes. And I think this is more on the Bills. I think this is, as much as the Bengals are back, I'm more concerned for the Bills in this, more just because they're trending. We're seeing something that's like, oof, like I'm not quite so sure they don't have some big issues. And there are a couple blown calls away from refs from, being well under 500. And they need to figure some things out. Injuries are not an excuse. Every team has them. At some point you have to figure it out or change the way you play. And so I think you gotta, I'm more concerned with the Bills following that more so. And obviously the Bengals did what they had to do, but.
So
concerning.
I was talking to a friend of ours who is a big Bills fan. And it was right before the game started. And I said, are you, worried about this game? Are you nervous? And he said, I've written off the season. He's like, our offense is too inconsistent. Josh Allen either looks unbeatable or he looks like he is hell-bent on not winning any game ever. And our defense is completely destroyed. Like we've got guys in there who wouldn't see the field on any other team that are playing every snap for us on defense. He's like, I've written off the season. So my question is, are we writing off the Bill? Are they still in a position now where they can make a real run, or is it like this is over?
Yeah, no. I mean, they're still leading the division. Like, I understand where that friend is coming from. I guess they're not leading the division. They're third in the division.
They're in third currently.
Yeah.
The Jets have to play, but
sure. I said this, I which is crazy. I had Bills as third in our preseason conversations. I don't know if you guys remember, but I had Jets, Dolphins, Bills, Patriots. And while the Jets and the Dolphins, I mean, obviously that was before the Aaron Rodgers injury, but I don't think the Bills are in a position to win right now. I really don't. But I also, they're kind of like the Chiefs. They're like Chiefs light, okay? Because you can't write them off. The Bills are a good team. The AFC East is the hardest division in the NFL right now. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. Like it is a very difficult division to win. All those teams are pretty damn good aside from the Patriots. So like I don't know. The Bills are a juggernaut. They have been a juggernaut the last couple of years, and I think as long as Josh Allen is in there, he's one of those players who you can never count him out. And that's how I look at him. But I do think that they're not the best team in that division.
Quick question for you. Do you think the Bills are more likely to make the playoffs or miss the playoffs at this point? Would you say you got $100 and you're like, okay, which way you're going to lean, miss or make?
They're going to make. I think they will. I think that they're they have too much talent on that team not to, I guess is where I'm at. So maybe it's a wild card spot. I don't know, but I think that they will be in the playoffs. Now, whether they make it all the way, obviously, is a totally separate conversation, but I think they go to the playoffs.
They've got, they've got the Jets, obviously good defense, so we'll see how that game turns out. But they've got the Eagles, they've got the Chiefs, they've got the Cowboys, and they've got the Dolphins still all left to play, and the Chargers. Throw that in there too.
The Chargers aren't. Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. Think about this late into the season because we talked about it. They got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games left to play. So they got 8 games, and he just said they got Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Dolphins. Like, I don't know, man. It's going to be tough. I think the Bills can do it, though. Like, I think they could definitely get that wild card spot. I think it's just from the expectations of this team, this Bills team over the last 2 years is trending from one of being like Super Bowl contender to now we're sitting here like, do you think they can make the wild card?
I don't think they're going to make the wild card.
I don't know.
It's going to be
I don't
tough,
even know
man.
anymore because I'm looking at both the Jets and the Dolphins end of season schedule here, and they both have very favorable. Like the Jets have the Falcons, the Texans, the Patriots, the Commanders, Raiders, Chargers. The Dolphins have Raiders, Commanders, Titans. Yeah, the Dolphins have a pretty tough one too.
Their last 3 are going to be tough because they get Cowboys, Ravens, Bills. I think that Dolphins-Bills game at the end of the season could
determine who goes in.
I bet you, yeah. I think it may be for the division.
Awesome.
I think that January 7 game could just be for the division at that point.
That's what I'm rooting for now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they make it. There is a very real possibility that they don't, but I also wouldn't be surprised.
They got to get healthy. They got to find a way to get healthy. And that's all it is.
Damn.
I just one little nugget here that I brought up last year too, but I always think it's funny that the Raiders have continued the streak of winning after they fire their head coach midseason. So the stats on this are kind of wild. So teams who fire their head coach go into their next game and they win about 50% of the time, which doesn't seem crazy, obviously. But on average, before those teams fire their head coach, they only win 26% of the time. So the reason I bring this up is because this is a hack in the matrix, right? Where gambling is always hit and miss, but this has been pretty consistent. So if you're looking to throw a little bit of money on a game every now and again, maybe wait till a head coach gets fired and see what their matchup is, because the odds there seem to be a little bit better than anywhere else in football. So I just thought that was funny. I always want to bring that up.
Just dump $1,000
on the Raiders.
As soon as Brandon Staley gets fired, dump $1,000 on the Chargers to win.
Chargers probably won't ever lose again once Brandon Staley's gone.
Brandy.
Yeah, could be.
Brandy
Staley. Brandy Staley. I did also want to also plug somebody who catches a lot of flack, and it rhymes with flack. His name is Dak. Threw for 374. You're welcome. I just did it off the top of my head. That's not even written in the show notes.
You're a genius.
374, 3 touchdowns. It was a close game. Both teams at the end. I don't know, did you guys watch the very end of this? Because it was like they were both trying to give it away by doing just like very stupid things. And the one thing that stood out to me is that even with the stats, even with some of the things, Dak still just does a few things that you're like, God damn it! Like if I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm like, can you just please not do a few of these things? And I wrote a few of them down, and one very obviously was like not him. I know he was trying to go out, but it was just like stepping out on the 2-point try, like having the body control to like just make that happen. He took some bad sacks late. He was just like locking onto people, didn't seem to have like a good read, seem to have a good read of the defense, was just like playing too fast, took a sack. And then even on their last drive, he was targeting Tolbert late, wasn't feeding CD, wasn't just giving his guy a chance. And I think even on the broadcast, they said, why don't you just give it to your best players? Why aren't you just like trusting your best players to make a play? And I think if you want to look at, we talked about the Bengals, a very juxtaposition of like how these quarterbacks operate. Burrow gives his guys a chance to make a play. He'll throw it up there. He knows he has talent there to go make a play. And Eagles cornerbacks were dropping like flies on that last drive. Like that was the opportunity to give it to CD, go get a win, and make it happen for your team. And like he's like almost there in that elite discussion, but it's like these just weird, dumb things.
I don't think he's good.
You're like,
I don't think he's good. I really don't. And you look
struggle. I go up and down.
No, because the stats tell a story, but they don't tell the full story. And you look at the stat line and you're like, that's pretty good. But he has never been able to get it done in the times that matter most. That has been Dak Prescott's entire mantra his entire career. I don't think Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. I don't. I've been on this pedestal for a while now. We assumed that this offense was going to struggle without their offensive coordinator there, and that has been the case. I also think it's because Dak Prescott is just not a good quarterback. I was just kind of scrolling around here and looking at this. Let's just play a very quick game. I love playing games with you boys. So let's play one. Let's say Patrick Mahomes doesn't exist. And you have to choose, but I know.
It's
I'm
a terrible game already.
All right. Would you rather have Dak Prescott as a quarterback for your franchise or Jared Goff?
I think they're pretty similar. I mean, if you're gonna just
I'm gonna bring pretty similar guys to the table here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I think if you look at the resume, obviously Jared Goff has a little bit more of the finishing the season.
Well, it depends on the season.
I would take Goff probably though.
Okay, let's do. Fuck.
This is good podcasting.
Yeah, I know. This is great.
This is great.
I was gonna.
Did we win the
game?
What
the people want.
Did we win the game?
Sam Howell or Dak Prescott?
Oh, Dak.
Really?
Yeah. And I mean, Dak's kind of. You have to remember he had like a pretty traumatic injury and he's kind of aged. But if you look at like his first few years, Dak, like if I can get that Dak, I would take that Dak.
Geno Smith or Dak?
I would still take Dak.
He's got the higher ceiling.
Kyler Murray or Dak?
Oh, I do not want Kyler Murray anywhere near my organization.
I don't want What? Kyler Murray is not tall enough to play quarterback for me.
What?
Come on, guys. Shit.
Yeah, not interested.
Not tall enough to ride that ride, huh? Well, okay. I don't think Dak's good. I think the Cowboys are eventually going to realize that. I think it's going to take them time to realize that. But this is one of those things where we say that we see it before the coaches do. I'm seeing it before the people do. I don't think Dak Prescott's good. And if I need to die on that mountain, I'll die on it. I don't think he's good.
67. He's a 67% win percentage as a starter. I mean, in the NFL, that's not awful.
And I think most people agree with you, Hunter. I think the hatred for Dak far outweighs people who support him. Probably even within their own franchise. I think their fan base is sick of Dak. But ultimately, he's the kind of guy who is going to make some dumb decisions, cost you some games. But as in totality, he's not a bad quarterback. He's not someone that you necessarily want as your franchise guy, but he's not someone that I don't think is going to tank you, every season.
But here, real quick, Slaps, by way of comparison.
Okay.
Dak is 66-38 as a starter. Jared Goff is 60-47 as a starter. As much as we say winning isn't a quarterback stat, I think very much so.
You say that.
I don't think winning is a quarterback stat, but
you're using it as an argumentative piece here that I don't agree with.
You were saying if I had would you rather win more games or lose more games? That's really all we have to go off of sometimes. But
you think the Lions are a better team this year than the Cowboys?
Do I?
Yeah.
I want to say no, just because I know who I'm talking to.
Look, I am not a Lions fan. I'm just rooting for the Lions.
No, I think
that seems like the same thing.
Just this year, I did it with the Rams, and now that they've won their Super Bowl, I can hate them because they're in my division, and I do hate them. But I do love Sean McVay. But I fucking hate the Rams. So I have my teams that I cheer on because I want to see them succeed. Before then, I can officially write them off and throw them in the dumpster. And that was the Rams one year, and that is the Lions this year. Fair. But are the Lions honestly? Are the Lions better than the Cowboys? Yes or no?
Find out on December 30th.
I'm gonna say they're overall. I'm gonna say they're a better team.
Okay,
and I think it may not be a sum of their parts.
The Cowboys,
the Lions.
The Lions. Okay.
I think as a sum of their parts. I think together. I think I would much rather play the Cowboys if I had to go win a game than go play the Lions. If I had to win a game.
That's fine. I'll take it. We jumped around a little bit, so for anybody watching the show live, hey, appreciate your guys' viewership and support, but we kind of jumped around. So we have a little ticker that shows what's up next. It's a little wrong, but we're going to correct it right now. Go to the BrainBusters. First question comes from Jaguars Fan Battle. I'm trying to find the question here. Would another quarterback do better in the Matt Canada offense? I'm going to say no. I think Matt Canada is a scumbag piece of shit.
I think two things can be true at once, where Matt Canada obviously should probably be fired, but also Kenny Pickett is not looking good. You put Patrick Mahomes in that offense, and they might not win a Super Bowl, but it's going to look a hell of a lot better than Kenny Pickett. So, yeah, there's a lot of room for growth on both sides.
Should Matt Canada be fired? Yes or no?
Yeah.
I don't root for people to lose their jobs.
I know,
but I think they could hire somebody better.
Frustrates me. Okay,
I think he's probably made enough money. He's made enough money to be okay. He can never work again and be just
well off. I hope his family's well off and they're okay and they're happy and they live peacefully.
I think they probably are. I'd fire him.
I
don't care about Matt Canada. Oh,
I'd
the other F word.
The
other F word. That's the only question we got. Appreciate it. If you guys have any other questions, sneak them in and we'll get them in at the very end of the show here. Go over to YouTube, submit them. While we are still here, we're going to do the waiver wires very quickly. So there's just a couple candidates. This is Fantasy Football. Welcome to the show. He is back. He's back, guys. Kyler Murray is back. And would this be a Leatherbrains podcast if a Cardinals player was not on the waiver wire targets this week? This is the third week in a row I have told you to go pick up Kyler Murray. And this is probably the last time I'm going to tell you to, because after this week, he will be rostered. He's currently 60% rostered and on one of the worst NFL teams. But before his injury, he was a top 10 quarterback. I feel like I could just hit the little recorder button because I say it every week. He was a top 10 fantasy quarterback before his injury. He is coming back and will be playing. I can't guarantee you that he will be as good as he was before his injury, but I think he's worth benching on your roster, especially given all the quarterback injuries recently. He's somebody I would be grabbing and rostering and seeing what you got in him.
I would also say, just to note, new Call of Duty comes out this Friday.
Oh, God. He's fucked.
New Call of Duty releases on the 10th.
I think Jonathan Gannon, the head coach for the Cardinals, playing this on purpose because he's like, you get to choose right here and right now. Because he's kind of been teasing Kyler Murray's going to come back. And he literally chose this time to give Kyler Murray an option, football or Call of Duty. And he's going to
If you're Kyler Murray, would you want to do over and blow your ACL out like last week? That way you could have all this rest and you could just play Call of Duty.
I guarantee you he
would.
would.
Backwards.
Yeah, he really effed this one up.
He did it a little wrong. So, Kyler's doing it on max difficulty, new Call of Duty, and he has to come back from an ACL. So, few things working against him.
You think Gannon did this on purpose to hedge his bets and be like, all right, if he sucks, we know why he sucked. It's not my fault. He sucks because he's distracted.
Is he even playing Call of Duty? I haven't played Call of Duty in forever. As somebody who used to play Call of Duty a ton when I was younger, that game is terrible. And I don't know if anybody's... What's that?
We still play. You still
play?
Mm-hmm.
I just can't anymore. It got too old, but obviously some people are playing it. And
we also still play Halo, so that shows you where we're at.
Halo is amazing.
Yeah, Halo's great. I'm not going to say anything bad about Halo. But what I think with Kyler Murray is I think that they're kind of trying, and by they I mean the Cardinals are trying to see what the future is of this organization, because they've like verbally came out and said like we're not opposed to trading Kyler Murray. So it's I think it's going to kind of be a showcase of like, look what you could have if you buy this guy. Or it's going to be, damn, we might as well keep him around. He looks as good as he used to. And I think that's kind of like playing him this late in the season. That's kind of my mentality. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's just kind of me reading into it and how I perceive it. So I don't know, but I would go get him for fantasy, because if he is a semblance of what he was before his injury, he's going to be very usable.
I just hope he wears the crop top practice jersey again. That was cool.
Me too. He looking like he's in the longest yard. Joshua Dobbs is the other quarterback worth mentioning. Of course, we talked about the Pastronaut a lot at the beginning of the episode, but he's a top 10 quarterback right now. He is QB9 on the year. We tried to tell everybody in preseason. We said you need to add this guy because he's a top 10 quarterback, and nobody's really listening to us, which is very sad and frustrating. But he's 20% rostered right now. I think after his performance this last week, he's certainly worth a starting conversation. So I would go get him and start him. And those are the two quarterbacks I brought this week.
Do you think for sure, like, you think they have no choice in Minnesota but to start Dobbs forever, like right now, instead of
for the rest of the season, for sure? Yeah, it would be. You have to. I think he was going to get started anyway once you get familiar with the playbook. So it just sped things up.
I think if nothing else, you have to for that one fan that shaved off his eyebrows. I think you can't
do that.
That's awesome.
Have him shave off his eyebrows and then not start Dobbs anymore. I think that's just a terrible look as a franchise. I think you kind of have to. True. You're committed now.
That's bad news.
That's true. Scotty, did you want to bring your waiver wire guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing special. Obviously, everyone who watched football this weekend knows Keaton Mitchell, Ravens running back, who put up 9 carries. Kind of came out of nowhere. He's their rookie. He's fast. Able to make a lot of big plays. He's only rostered in 7% of leagues right now, and I'm guessing those are real deep leagues that he was just sitting on the bench on. But he's a high upside waiver guy. If he comes out and is efficient with a few touches, they're going to have to play him more, because obviously losing J.K. Dobbins, they're trying to find a replacement for the running game there. And he, through one game, seems like, hey, he might be that guy. So he's worth picking up and stashing on your bench and just hoping it pans out well, but nothing too exciting.
Okay, last thing, and then we're going to get the hell out of here. Monday Night Football predictions. The game starts in exactly an hour from now. Chargers versus the Jets. For anybody that's listening in tomorrow's podcast, of course, you know the answer, but we do not. So who do you guys have winning this one? We'll start with you, Alan.
I'm going to go with the Jets, mainly because I think Herbert and that offense struggles against really good defenses, and their defense is not very good. So if they start giving up a lot of points and they're forced to throw, I think that plays right into what the Jets want to do defensively. So I'm going to go with the Jets.
I don't know.
Go against the grain.
I'm going to say Chargers.
Hell yeah.
Out of hope, because they're the much more fantasy relevant team, and I want all our fantasy folks to be excited at the end of this game. So I hope that Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen and QJ, I hope they all have huge games and they blow the Jets out by 50 points.
No, I think that'd be really cool for fantasy, but I'm going to take the Jets here because I don't think that...
You really baited me into that one.
Yeah, no, I definitely did, and I'm glad you took it. But I think the Jets are going to win this one. But hey, I do hope that there's a lot of fantasy production on the Chargers, because it's been really sad, especially for Quentin Johnston, because I was really excited about him going into the season, and it's been really sad so far. So
yeah.
Gentlemen, that's it. That's all the time we got. If you guys are watching us or listening on whatever podcast platform you're on, if you could just do a huge favor, hit the subscribe button. means the world, man. I mean, we are a small little podcast that is growing tremendously, but we do appreciate your guys' continued support as we go through this journey. It's been fun, and we'll do it again on Wednesday with Yeti. So
and shout out to Jaguars Fan Battle. Very involved in the episode. Appreciate you listening, brother.
Amen, man. All right, let's get out of here, gentlemen. We
are
out.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out leatherbrains.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.